Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Crypto Morning Coffee. I got my coffee locked and loaded, ready to go, because we are going to talk about crypto adoption by nations that is happening right now and what nations are doing to at least facilitate that. So you saw on the thumbnail, we have a couple of flags already up there, and we're also going to talk about Ecomi and Veve once again, about Paul Barron and Solana apparently bringing out somewhat of digital comics on a specific app, and obviously there are some voices that are screaming that this will crush Veve, threaten Veve or whatever. So we are going to talk about that as well right after the intro. So, good morning, everyone. I was actually in the making here of a tweet that so let me just write that tweet. What is going on with Solana and Paul Barron? Okay, just throw this out here. So, good morning, every one of you. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing fine. We have our rare hodlers are already here. So, smash up the like button, guys, to bring the stream out to as many people as possible. Absolutely valuable. Right now I'm getting a little bit punished by YouTube for not making as many live streams and videos as I used to, but we'll get back there. Chris Thomas is here, morning squad. Good morning, Chris. Hope you're doing fine. And guys, liking and subscribing, absolutely free and helps me the most with the channel. If you want to help more, then you can become a rare hodler like all the other guys here behind me and become a channel member. And that would also give you access to our Telegram group where all the rare hodlers are hanging out and sharing information, altcoins and so on. Okay, let's jump right in with our topics. So, first of all, Bitcoin, nothing new on Bitcoin. These are the daily candles, so literally nothing new. We are at the same price, more or less, as we were yesterday. A little bit green, but in the macro scale, you cannot really... I have to drill down into the 4-hourly if it lets me. And then maybe we can see something, but even then, we cannot really see much difference. There's a little bit back and forth in the price action, but even on the 4-hourly, we have no decision yet. If you are wondering why this yellow line is here, there could be still downside coming if we fail to challenge and put in another high right now. The longer this consolidates, the better for us, because then it realigns with the crypto cycle, and that would then mean that we just had a little bit of a preemptive action instead of really having a left translated cycle and everything being different. So let's not go into that. Let's also look at the crypto market quickly. By the way, this went out of whack here, so let's get the 90-day back in here, and the yearly and the hourly we don't want to see. So we see Bitcoin is up still 142% year to date, Ethereum 77%. So also here we see Bitcoin is outperforming some of these, obviously not Solana. Solana is up 651%, but overall today is very flat and non-moving. Are there some bigger movers? Toncoin, by the way, Toncoin is already place 9, so that is pretty crazy in my opinion. And then do we have any other big movers today? Not really. Chainlink sitting nicely there, but there's nothing in the altcoin market. H-bar though, H-bar is pumping like crazy. H-bar is up 65%. 65% on the day in the last 24 hours. So if you're a holder of H-bar, congratulations, you're holding almost doubled. Doubled in the last 90 days, and most of that move has just happened for whatever reason. Actually, I have no idea why H bar made this big of a pump. I just saw it now, and meme coins are still moving. Okay, let's talk about this. I think this is interesting. We're always talking a little bit. Okay, H bar is dumping back right now. Okay, so maybe that's just in the moment of a big purchase that just pumped the price and then already sell off. Maybe that's the case. But here it shows. Oh yeah, it's already down 4% now from where we've just looked at. So it was 65, now it's 61, but still it's up 60%. So there must have run into some resistance now. Let's talk about this. And you know that we are always talking a little bit of macroeconomics just to know when the money printer goes back on. And what we have here, and I will remove myself from this in a second, but what we have here is basically the rate hike duration, or the duration of higher for longer. So basically how long the Fed keeps their rates up on average. Let me move myself up here and you guys to the side. Okay, so what we see is that here we have all of these crises, so to say, right? So for example, the dot-com bubble, after the dot-com bubble, it was 8 months of rates up for longer. So rates up and then holding, right? That's the month number. So it's 8, then during the subprime crisis, during the US subprime crisis, housing market crisis, it was 15 months. And then I don't know if that was during or right. Yeah, that was right before the pandemic. It was not very high rates, but it was capped for 8 months. So, and now we have 10 months already. Yeah. So we are coming, with every month going on, we're coming in the territory of the longest, which the rates are up. So that means that the more this goes on, with, let's say, another 5 months would put us into September, would put us equal to the housing crisis. The more we come to this territory, the likelier it is that at some point we are cutting rates. So the rate cuts are, in my opinion, very, very likely from September to October to November, somewhere in that territory of maximum duration. I think that is important to know and to check out when we could expect this. So let me just move the chat back up here. So now let's get to the good stuff. So nation adoption, right? So Switzerland considers Bitcoin for national reserve. And I think that is a big deal. So Switzerland is exploring adding Bitcoin to its national reserves alongside traditional assets like gold and silver. A referendum led by Yves Benaim proposes a constitutional amendment to bolster economic stability and modernize the reserve assets. Proponents see Bitcoin as hedge against inflation. Critics are aware of volatility. Now, Switzerland is, at least in Europe, but probably around the world, known for a couple of things. Cheese and chocolate, that they're taking it slow, also in traffic, and for handling money and reserves. Yeah, for handling gold, for storing away money, also for low taxes. So Switzerland here really going for the Bitcoin adoption. So that is country number 1, where we have them at least talking about it. The second country that I want to mention is that we have here crypto currency adoption in the Middle East, and that is a surge in trades, and the UAE is leading the way with 72% of users owning Bitcoin. So that is not a country adoption, but that is basically the populace has adopted it the most worldwide, in the Middle East, sorry, with 72% of users. That is crazy. So they have favorable regulations and a bullish market, and they also have in some countries, in poorer countries, there's inflation and so on. So yeah. By the way, guys, let me know if the sound is alright, if everything's alright here, because I am not sure if you can hear me. And then finally, the European Union, so in January 2025, the EU will allow banks to hold 2% of their capital in Bitcoin. So that is actually a big deal. Again, the EU will allow banks to hold 2% of their capital in Bitcoin and crypto, right? So crypto is going mainstream and financial revolution is unstoppable. Imagine 2% of capital from banks in Europe. So exactly, that is something. Okay, you sound great. So Pro Legendary says, finally able to catch a live stream. Very good. Welcome. Sounding great. That is good. So yeah, so you see there are a lot of big banks in Europe that could allocate capital to Bitcoin. And that is, for example, let's take Spain, Santander. Or let's take Switzerland, UBS and Credit Suisse and so on, right? Or take Deutsche Bank in Germany, right? Or what else is there in the big banks side? So you could. Oh, basically, by the way, I said Switzerland. Switzerland is not in the EU, but you saw that they have adoption as well, and they share a big part of the contracts with the EU, but they are not in the European Union. Just to not call me stupid for having Switzerland here in the mix. But there are other banks like what would be another good bank? I cannot think of one. I mean, there are a lot of German banks that would have a lot of capital as well. But yeah, anyways, think of your country in Europe, if you're in Europe, and think of your bank, and they can hold 2% of their capital in Bitcoin. That is quite some Bitcoin. Let's see here. Pro Legend says, if Bitcoin cycle ends around December this year, when do you think the alt season will end? That depends on. So traditionally, let's answer that question quickly. So an alt season traditionally only lasts for 3 to 4 months, maybe 4. So probably by April, then if it really ends in the end of the year, then probably by April you're done with the altcoin season. If it happens like that. But the longer we are moving sideways right now, the more I would say that the cycle will take the same time again, even under the premise of lengthening cycle. So we have to really see where we are in the cycle. There is one more, and I didn't include the flag because it's just one bank and it is owned by a big US investor, and that is Nubank. So it's in Brazil, and Nubank allows now Bitcoin withdrawals for their users. So this is pretty big. But the good thing is this thing, or not the good thing, but the interesting thing is this Nubank is owned by Warren Buffett, an advocate against Bitcoin. He and Charlie Munger many times said that they think Bitcoin is rat poison and I don't know what, like really trashed Bitcoin publicly, although investing in Bitcoin in this way. So Nubank is allowing withdrawals. That is pretty big. Green Lantern is here. What's up? GM Homies, bank and country news are crazy bullish for this run. I think so. It just is a new level of adoption, where institutional adoption was a big deal in the last cycle. Just talking about it happened now. A lot of institutional adoption. Now we have bank and nation adoption. Pro Legendary says, thanks for answering. I would prefer we go sideways for a couple of months and then we go parabolic. That can happen. So in the last cycles, we saw that after the halving, it took 4 to 6 months until we actually blasted up. And that doesn't mean that we cannot go from 65 to 70,000 again and challenge and go sideways in that way. But the longer every day that we're moving sideways like it's right now is probably in the end good for the stability of the cycle and predictability of the cycle, I would say. Okay, so this is my this is my favorite chart of all of them. Because here we see the comparable, like size comparable of investment possibilities, so to say. And I think it's measured worldwide, I think. So here are the market caps of different assets. So you have real estate, which is 330 trillion, and then you have bonds, government bonds overall, 300 trillion, and then you have money, 120 trillion, and equities, 115 trillion. Then, by the way, this is interesting for us here, especially cars and collectibles, 6 trillion. And then art, 18 trillion, also interesting, right? 18 trillion in art, and then 12 trillion in gold. And then you have Bitcoin, and that's only sitting at 1 trillion. So if we're looking at adoption of institutions, banks, and I don't know what, gold is the reference because gold is adopted by institutions, by investors, by banks, and by countries. So gold is the reference. So now you could say gold is imperfect, and that's true. So technically you could say, okay, maybe we put a little bit on top. And Bitcoin is sitting at 1 trillion. So technically, Bitcoin has a 12x to go on par with with gold. That would bring it closer to 1 million per Bitcoin, right? We are sitting at 66K. A 10x would be 660,000 Bitcoin. So then we would be on par with gold, but that would mean that there is no inflation happening. So both market caps are growing with the inflation. And then we have art as a store of, so these are store of value market caps. So art is a store of value slash billionaire hobby or millionaire hobby or whatever, like art collecting. Part of that could be going digital. And then cars and collectibles, maybe the same. So technically, somewhere in this market cap, you will find crypto adoption, right? So that's 12 trillion and 18 trillion, 30 trillion, 36 trillion. And then you have maybe, maybe all of the 300 trillion here that are government bonds. At some point, people will find out that Bitcoin is giving you more return than government bonds of any country. So technically you can tap into parts and little chunks of these. I'm not saying that people that have invested in real estate or are investing in real estate, that they are going to allocate money instead of real estate into Bitcoin. I would say that is not the case. But I would argue that some people that have bought government bonds before will maybe allocate 0.5% of what they're allocating usually there, maybe to Bitcoin, right? And that's quite some money already. So overall, I think there is room to grow for Bitcoin in a massive, massive way. And I think that the potential of Bitcoin is to at least overtake the market cap of gold in the future. And this may take another 2 cycles or so, maybe 3, but that's actually good for us, right? Because if there's still something left in the tank to go past gold in the next cycles, that also means that we might have more cycles to make big monies on Bitcoin. So this comparison, I think I like it a lot. and I think it's good. It's bullish if we look at it this way. Let's check quickly out what's going on in the short term here for Bitcoin, and look at the Bitcoin ETF inflows. So let's pull this up like this only. Okay, so what you see here, what you're looking at, is the net accumulation of all ETFs. So this is the only thing that really matters down below here, and we see that we had some reddish ones, and these are weeks, I think. No, these are daily changes. Sorry, this is 23rd, 22. So these are daily changes, and what's important about this daily change is the last 3 days, the Bitcoin production was only 450 Bitcoin per day production. The net inflow into all ETFs, even Grayscale, including Grayscale, is 800 to 478. So we have 3 consecutive days now where the ETFs outperform the daily production. So the ETFs alone, without any investors in the market, without you and without me and anyone else, have created already a deficit in terms of Bitcoin in the last 3 days. Okay, and you could argue they've also absorbed they've absorbed partially what has been sold off in the days before that. So all in all, we see that the big ones are obviously Fidelity and BlackRock. But we also see some inflows here in ARK again. So ARK had outflows sometime around, or no inflows reported. But here we see that now VanEck has a little bit of an outflow. But overall, what we want to see is that the other ETFs are growing more, because otherwise I think they will cease to operate. So they will shut down their ETFs, like hashtags, for example. So we want to see all of them staying alive and thriving, to not only have BlackRock basically offering it as a service. Hey Mewtwo, what's going on? Green Lantern says BRICS explores creating a crypto stablecoin for global trade settlements. Yes, and this is something that I don't have open here, but it's a very good point from Green Lantern here. The BRICS countries are trying to use crypto in some way, and also Venezuela is trying to settle oil sales in crypto. So that would also be something that is overall bullish, and I think it was even Bitcoin that they were considering. So imagine that the oil sales are done in Bitcoin. That would be crazy. And I mean, it makes sense. So Venezuela is sitting on a lot of oil, and if they could sell it and get Bitcoin in return instead of fiat, that would be interesting, because they wouldn't be dependent on anyone, and it would be way more stable than their current currency. So they could then do something like El Salvador and spread Bitcoin to the populace, which will be probably, with the current Venezuelan government, more unrealistic, but who knows, maybe it changes in the future. So this would be a way to avoid the control of the US over Venezuela and have a stable currency, or more stable currency, I would say. Okay, so quickly to the charts, because Pro Legendary has asked about the trend here. So we're a little bit red. This is good for altcoins. I mean, this is where altcoins do something like HBAR just did with a 60% move. So we're coming a little bit down here in dominance, meaning altcoins are at the moment outperforming Bitcoin in the last 2 weeks. Yeah. although Bitcoin dominance is still on the macro going up. We will have to see. If we though see, and this is already what I will say, if we see the support lines fall here, so this teal line, for example, if this does not turn into a support and this falls through, then I would say, okay, and we really see the dominance collapsing, then I would change my mind on the altcoin season topic, but that is not the case yet. So I continue to say we're not in an altcoin season, and we're in a Bitcoin season, and it's probably going to be months on end more for Bitcoin, which is good because that would be aligning with the cycle. Looking at altcoins, and that is really our indicator, I would say, pro legendary. If we just have to observe Bitcoin dominance, and oh yeah, you asked for the timing. So right now that we are in the chart, we can look at it. So if you go from this upper point where we got basically we Bitcoin topped out and lost market against the altcoin seasons or against the altcoins, then you would take this point and measure to the downside, and you get 130 days at best. So, but you will not have 130 days where you actually know that you are in an altcoin season. You get only, let's do a little bit more conservative here. From top to absolute bottom, you have only 126 days. Can we see more than one alt season in a cycle? So I would say like a true, this depends on the definition of the alt season. So let me refresh this a little bit. Okay, so let's go into the monthly here. Okay, so we have had two, in my opinion, we had two big altcoin seasons in the entire history of Bitcoin. So this was when only Bitcoin was there basically, and Ethereum had so little market share. And then we had our first big alt season in April 2017. Or it started in March of 2017 and it went on until January 18. So that was the biggest alt season that we ever had because there was no alts before. And then in the last cycle, we had another alt season from roughly January 21 until May 21. So you see, so that's a big alt season. Other than that, there are no real alt seasons. I mean, Bitcoin dominance lost also here in the bear market, and the alts did a little bit better then. But overall, so this was in June 22, a small alt season, I would say. But yeah, this isn't, or I would not say. You could argue this is a small alt season, but it's not. In my opinion, it needs to be like Bitcoin rises crazy in market cap and outperforms the entire alt space like we do right now. And at some point, we fall. And then the question is, and this is what I'm looking at, how far? Because from all what we've ever fallen, we found support for Bitcoin here at this level. So the question is that I ask myself is, what of a crazy alt season would we see if we lose this and go into price negative percentage discovery, so to say, right? So this could happen this cycle. We are at an inflection point where we already could say, okay, from a monthly perspective, this dominance can still get rejected here and we go down, right? It could already be happening, like that the altcoins, it could already start now, but to be honest, I mean, it makes no sense from fundamental and cycle wise. It makes no sense to not break out here. So I would say I see some analysts that are saying basically when you reach this line, you get rejected, and that's where your alt season starts. I mean, if we see a month that is red and long like this, and then followed by other red months to the downside, and we're approaching this 42% line or so, 42, yeah, here, then I would say, okay, here, guys, we're in an altcoin season, get ready to take massive profits. But that's not the case yet, and if we break out, I could see us go higher here and redraw this resistance line, right? I mean, we're just, I mean, if you would on a monthly, we could be breaking out. We will see. Can we see more than one? Okay, that was the question. So the question again, can we see more than one alt season per cycle? No, I would say no, but I would say that these are monthly candles. So if you go into a daily chart, this doesn't look as clean. So you would have a massive alt pump, then a breather, a massive alt pump, and a breather, and so on. I would say no. I would say we only have one true mega alt season. Mewtwo says, when we get OMI to NFT, people have to be careful to preserve their profits by converting OMI to a stable coin in the end so that you don't ride everything to the bottom again. Any thoughts on this? Absolutely true. For it counts in the end as for every other altcoin. There needs to be new users, new backholders coming in for you to take profit, and they will come in at new prices. Sounds like a pyramid scheme, but actually every investment is like that if you want to leave in profit. Pro Legendary says, I'm going to go back to your question, Mewtwo, in a second when we look at the OMI chart. Pro Legendary says, I was gonna ask the question you just answered, because looking at the chart lines you drew, it indicates that we are expecting alt season in the next month. I drew this based on another stream to highlight the argument that this could be a pattern that we are following at the moment. Although it looks like we are expecting it, but think of the other scenario. The other scenario is you break out, you retest, and you go, right? And then this pattern is invalidated by breakout. So it could, I mean, you have you have 3 touch points, so it's a valid pattern, right? 1, 2, 3, actually you have 4, 5, so it's a valid pattern. But it doesn't mean that the breakout has to happen to the downside, although that is the more likely scenario. That you stay in this pattern and break it to the downside is the more likely scenario. However, with everything that we know about the crypto cycle, Bitcoin is not done yet. So what are the options? The options are we go lower in this sense and maybe hover on this line. Altcoins are doing better throughout the cycle, even though Bitcoin pumps like crazy. That is an option. The other option is Bitcoin goes really crazy because of the ETFs. We break out and we come back up here and form something else. And Bitcoin is the new leader of the market again, right? And all the talk about Ethereum and the flippening is going out of the window. The higher, actually this would be good, right? Because the higher this goes, the deeper the fall for then the alt season, right? I mean, in the end, this means Bitcoin is attracting a ton of money, yeah, from the entire market cap, is accumulating that, and then people are selling it and putting it into alts. And that's where we see this. And then if it would be really degenerate, you would lose this and you go like this. And if that happens, that will be the mother of all altcoin seasons. Because you see that all the time we're just coming back and have a little bit. I would argue that we don't lose this. I would argue that we don't lose this level, actually, because of one simple fact. people are going to take profits. So let's say this happens. People are going to take profits here on all the altcoins. And where do they put these profits? They put it back in Bitcoin. So Bitcoin would be actually gaining in market cap against the altcoins all the time, because at some point all the money of the altcoins goes into Bitcoin. Yeah. So in the end, probably Bitcoin is gaining strength against the market again, because all other cryptocurrencies or cryptos are failing to preserve wealth in the same way. So yeah, which doesn't make sense since Bitcoin still haven't made a big move yet. I mean, it made a fairly big move, to be honest, right? Which is what we're seeing reflected here in Bitcoin dominance. But it, you're right, it is about to go parabolic in the next into this next phase of the cycle. You're right. If we see altcoins pump next month, we're gonna see a whole cycle ends maybe in the third quarter. Well, that would be unusual, and also you have to now it's all fine to look at TA, right? But just because we see some red candles here, small red candles, would not mean, oh, the cycle ended, right? It could just be that we get rejected here, hover, and then break out again. So we really have to see, are we going to lose critical support in this pattern? So that is where TA is all fine, but you have to see one thing. What did we look at before? And this is what I said was so important, why we're looking at macro. We looked before at the Fed is keeping interest rates higher for longer than normal with the 10. The longer this goes on, the more we can come to rate cut. What does this have to do with our Bitcoin dominance? Everything, because when the money printer goes on, it's more likely that a lot of money flows into Bitcoin and Bitcoin goes higher, right? So from all the fundamentals that are still coming, like we have an election year, spending should be higher the closer we get to the elections. We have the Bitcoin ETFs accumulating, and we have the money printer going back on probably somewhere in September, October to the end of the year. So actually that would mean that global or US liquidity, global liquidity would expand more to the end of the year, meaning that risk on assets like crypto should expand more to the end of the year. So technically, this would mean that we should be expecting more Bitcoin run more to the end of the year. Okay, so but if we see something that really looks like an alt season, nonetheless, I will take profits. I will just not sell everything if the fundamentals are still looking like, okay, here's a big expansion going on. So, do you think it's possible that OMI can run even though alt season hasn't started? Yes, it's always possible. I mean, you see it in other altcoins. If you have the right news, these altcoins are running. You see if the narrative is on your sector, like AI and gaming, we have seen coins doing 10x's already. It's just, oh, okay, Ecomi is not in the narrative. Speaking of that, let's move to Ecomi. Because there was the question also from YouTube. So when do you think it's best time to sell Veve NFT, during the alt season or after the alt season, if we think NFT season is separate from alt season? After. I think it's after, because first of all, it's fairly easy. Think about some 20-year-old degenerate that just became a multi-millionaire by sitting on altcoins, right? So what would they do? They buy their dream house, they buy their Lambo, they buy their whatever, and then they still have money left over in crypto, in ETH, and I don't know what, like these complete degenerates that ape whatever 10,000 into a 300k market cap, right? So, and that made 1,000x or so. They will go and they will buy an NFT, but they will be like, oh, last time people bought a stupid ape picture, Now let's buy something that is officially licensed, and that could be the theory, right? Let's buy something else, something useful. Let's buy a digital Lambo. I don't know, right? So that is the theory. It could be happening like that. So I would say profits roll from Bitcoin into altcoins, and from altcoins into very small altcoins, and then degenerate millionaires are putting it into NFTs because they know the NFT cycle is coming afterwards. Yeah, we have 31 people here now watching this, so smash up the like button. So let's look at Aomi, and I would say from yesterday to today, it just let's see here. Maybe we should try and look at the time frame when Veve collectibles peaked versus when Omi and other altcoins peaked last time. There was a bull market. Did they peak simultaneously or separately? I made a video about this, Mewtwo. I don't know if you've seen it. And I actually I did. So I can look with you. I can show you what I showed in this video basically. But let me just go full cam. I have to go log on to Google. I have to go to Google Trends, and I don't want to dox anything here, but I think we're fine. So this is basically Google Trends. I'm going to explain how you use it, right? So you basically go here and you go Bitcoin, okay? So you get, this is in German unfortunately, but you get the idea. So this is the search term, and by the way, in Germany, just quickly for I have to put the cam up here. Okay, so this is Bitcoin in Germany just over the last day. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to go worldwide, and then we want to go over the last 5 years. Okay, so this is how the search volume for Bitcoin looks over the last 5 years. And you see, whenever you are like in a crazy bull, that's when you have the highest volume. And this one, if the volume now where we are goes higher than it has ever been before, this will not be 100 anymore. So the highest volume ever is always the 100, right? So then let's compare Ethereum. Why Ethereum? Because people search for a specific altcoin, and Ethereum is the biggest altcoin there. So people search more likely for Ethereum the most when it was time for altcoins. So Ethereum represents the altcoins, right? So look at this. You have the spike, the biggest spike for Ethereum is here at also where the biggest for Bitcoin was, but this was actually the second Bitcoin top. So the altcoin season started more or less, you can see this here, right? So for example, here you see altcoins are more or less going with the Bitcoin price. That's when the altcoin season already happened also, right? So that's what you see. But now let's go for NFT. Okay. So people are looking for NFTs, and you see this. So you have Bitcoin and altcoins very, very close together. It's because Bitcoin tops out, altcoins go like a couple of months. This is 5 years, right? So it's very close together. But here you see that NFT actually went crazy way beyond that. Only in the beginning of 2022 was the peak search volume for NFTs. And that peak search volume means the prices are already at their peak, right? Because people are only looking at it when prices already have gone higher. So for example, you have a high search volume for Bitcoin right now here when it hit, actually, you see March, that was when we hit the highest price for Bitcoin. And now search volume is going down again because the price of Bitcoin is not at an all-time high. So what does it tell us? Basically, I always said we are in a bull market, or we are in a very interesting phase when we come above 51 or above 50 here for Bitcoin. Okay, but you see that NFTs, they have the yellow line NFTs have a crazy spike or an uphill run when alts are already done, right? So the altcoin season was here, right? So here from January to May, from here to here, actually the altcoin season was from here, somewhere here, to here, right? So yeah, I hope that answers your question. So I would say, and there's something like that's called the crypto money flow. I go to images. It should be here. This is what I'm looking at. So you see. Wait a second. Let me try to open this website if I can, and try to. There we go. So basically, what I'm saying is also supported in this one here. Let me just, okay. So basically you have phase 1, Bitcoin, flow of money moves into Bitcoin causing price surges. That's what we see. And then you have a phase overlap. Money flows into Ethereum, but it struggles to keep up with Bitcoin. Ethereum goes back and forth with Bitcoin and starts outperforming it. That would be more or less what we're looking at. Maybe now, at some point, we had a little bit of faith, but Ethereum is struggling to outperform. It's not outperforming actually. And then you have phase 2. Ethereum outperforms Bitcoin, and we hear talks of the flippening. This is not the case right now, so we are actually somewhere in this overlap phase, I would say. Or maybe even in the Bitcoin phase. Yeah, so there's still phases to come. And then you have the overlap phase. Money is starting to trickle into large caps, where we see large buy-ups happening. So that is when the large caps are exploding. Like you would see 100% move out of Chainlink and stuff like that, right? And then you have the phase 3 large caps. Ethereum has been outperforming Bitcoin, and large caps are going parabolic. That is not the case at the moment. And then you have the next overlap phase. Regardless of market cap, some altcoins with strong fundamentals are having pumps already all across the market. And then you come into phase 4 alt season. Large caps have gone full vertical, and we're seeing blow off tops. Mid caps, low caps, micro caps all tend to pump around the same time. Large caps have been outperforming Bitcoin and Ethereum. It seems every coin is going parabolic regardless of fundamentals. Memes are everywhere. Everyone is super excited, and you feel the mania in the air. Okay, so that would be then the latest one. The thing here is, you could say, oh yeah, memes have been, yes, some memes have been around and some memes have been doing extremely well. That always happens. But what we did not see is that any of these coins collectively, like large caps, collectively outperforming Bitcoin for an extensive amount of time. So this money flow, I think we're still stuck in this overlap phase where Bitcoin and Ethereum are fighting over who's outperforming who. And then I would say you have here, what is missing in this chart is the overlap phase. First alts are breaking down. You have overlap, you have blow off tops in several alts, also in memes and so on. And the bear market basically started. And then the money flow to NFTs. And everyone is going crazy about pictures and collectibles, right? So I would put this fifth phase, the NFT phase, somewhere here. Awesome analysis. Thanks for answering the question. You're welcome. I really love doing that, diving into this stuff. Would you pump your bags into NFT after alt season ends? Me personally, no. Because I know that it happens, right? It's going to happen. So why would I? Why would I buy? I want to be in the NFTs already, right? So it's going to be mostly new users. That's the same. It's like the same. Would you put your Bitcoin into alts when Bitcoin topped out? And I would say no. I would already want to be in the alts. So I think everyone who is already in the market since 4 years cannot imagine to follow all the steps that a new, like a retail investor, would follow. But yeah, we will see. We will have to maneuver, see how it plays out, right? Pro legendaries, I might just hold VV NFTs, but it depends how big the pump is. 10x, then yes. 2x, and I'll just hold. It's too tedious to sell 1000 plus items. I think the moment you see that it's getting degenerate in the VV space, that's when you have to take some profits. And I mean, do I want to sell all my VV NFTs? I probably do not want to do that. I want to take profit on some where I have stacks or collectibles that I don't want to have anymore, and maybe secret rares if they went completely crazy and stuff like that. Are there any NFTs on base chain at the moment? I don't know, to be honest. I have no idea about base chain. Are you going for a comic pick today? I don't know what that is, Trucking Hank. But Ecomi chart. Let's talk about Ecomi and then some VV news quickly, because first of all, I promised it in the cycle, and secondly, we always do that. So Ecomi is a little bit green after having another big sell-off yesterday. So I would say the prediction of coming lower here is still valid. Lower high, yeah, lower lows in this medium trend. So I'd say we have just waited out. We have to wait this out. But on the RSI on the daily, we are fairly oversold, so it wouldn't be crazy to see more upside here. Protege. I need China market to come into VV to pump my Ultraman collectibles. Oh, okay. Going for comic today. He means the new comics. We can look at it. We can look at the new comics, but I quickly want to discuss something else. So there's nothing new for Ecomi here. So yesterday I talked a little bit more about it. Let's look quickly at the VV stats. Oh, by the way, the chat. So Stacker is bringing out some. Okay, that was not good. Stacker is bringing out some stats here now and then. So what we have is $55,000 on the 22nd of April. Biggest transaction was a purchase of 3,000. Transactions over 1,000, only 3. But okay, 3 per day. Classic bear market activity, I would say. Mints from the VV store, 157 collectibles. That is not too much, but I think there are not comics from the VV comic side in there. So it would be interesting if Stacker could provide every day a user growth, or like positive negative change. What I found interesting is this. So Paul Barron is, I don't know what's wrong with this guy, but he's shilling now basically a project on Solana that is reader app that has close to 6,000 followers, and apparently they're going to have thousands of comics there available for reading. I don't know if why, but he's basically doing the comparison to VV. I think we can look at this video quickly together and then draw our conclusions. So this is going to be like 2 minutes or so, or 2:40, but we can look at this quickly.
FT Comics now are live, so they're doing their final test on mainnet. This is basically, kind of think of this as the next generation of comics. There is a project out there called Veve, and it's one that has kind of gone in the comic space, the collectibles space. I would call them more of a Web 2, Web 2.5 company versus a Web 3 company. We talked about them here on the show before. I want to go to a...
He always says that about Veve, just for a quick remark here. I don't know why, but I mean, either you are like, okay, the ZK rollups and like immutable X is crypto, and therefore it's Web3 or you're not. But yeah, I don't quite get this point.
Clip, because this is the core CEO talking a little bit about where Veve is going. Listen in.
So I expect that we're going to evolve from 7 comics to 100, 200 comics by the end of this year. And then ideally next year, we're going to be one of those libraries which actually have over 1,000 comics in their portfolio. What we actually are dipping our toes into, and that's something that nobody in the comic industry taken a stance at yet, besides Veve, nobody is actually capturing the power users. Comic collectors are ready to spend up to 10,000 times more than subscribers. So somebody is ready to pay $50,000 to buy a comic, whereas somebody is ready to pay $5 for a monthly subscription. And that's the main thesis. We have comic collectors that are ready to move to digital era. They're just missing the resources. So far, they didn't have a platform where they could collect signatures, unwrap comics, have that kind of gamified experience, and have a sense of what you actually have in the.
Okay, so I think that is a very valid point of the founder here of this other reader app, and I think he understands his market in terms of collectibles, and I think it's good for the market if he's out there and doing something like that as well. And I think we can do better on the term of like animations and being able to get signatures on your stuff from the original creators. Maybe there is a way to implement this, but I want to see how they will implement that so that you can get signatures that are not fake. So yeah, this would be very interesting to see how they're going to pull this off.
The physical world. As for creators, there's perpetual royalties that are enforced through NFT sales. There's also the IP ownership, where we don't actually hold IP rights to your comic. We're not going to lock them in any way where we say for the next 2 years, we have to only distribute your comic through D-Reader. They're looking for a community, essentially, not an audience. They want somebody to engage with them. If they have an opening event of the book presenting it, they want people to come there and ask for signatures. They want to be on conventions. They want to interact with the community. And when you come to Netflix with your pitch, you come to them with your comic, and you say, I want to make an animated series out of these. They gathered an audience or a community fan base through comics, which is a cheap medium to sell your story. You approach Netflix, they're not going to ask you how much money you earned on the comic. They're going to ask you how many new users are going to bring to our app.
This is the real way to kind of take on the Web3 function of comics.
I think we're going to see the comics and the kids have a different perspective of what ownership means of those comics and what the collectible feeling is for that. So if kids are looking to say, oh no, I own this, or I own this royalty, or you're collecting a Pokemon card, it's got to be so stressful to hold that physical Charmander card. I mean, what do? You put it in a safe deposit box, or can you keep it on chain? That might be a little easier if you had a cold storage wallet where you could, keep that digital artifact for yourself.
Is collectible.
Okay, so a couple of points here. I think, so first of all, I didn't quite get the point where this now is better or like outperforming Veve or putting a threat to Veve. So we also don't know which IP they have. So it's apparently on Solana, and it apparently gives you ownership of what you have. So that is fine. That is good, right? I mean, we also want to have Veve catering to Web3 community. But what is interesting is, on the one hand, it's always like, oh, this is going to crush Veve or threaten Veve, right? I think Paul Barron also had a couple of projects there highlighted that were supposed to compete with Veve or even put Veve out of the market, that are not around anymore. So that definitely has to be said. But the mere fact that everyone is comparing a new project to Veve shows who the market leader is, right? I mean, it's like, if you have, I saw these days a comparison like, oh, this and that feature of Tesla is better than Porsche. So I was like, okay, so if you have to compare singular features to Porsche, then probably Porsche is like your point of reference. Like Porsche is then the leader, right? Why would you would not say, oh, Tesla is so much better than Renault, right? In that aspect, because everyone knows, right? But you want to compete always with the stronger one. It's like, oh, this and that player is just better than the, I don't know, like from PSG, like the top players, and then you're like with your small team, like we have that one player that's actually better than whatever, like goalkeeper of PSG or whatever, right? So you always tend to compare to the biggest fish, to the whale in the game, and try to find points. It's like Cryptoys has some Star Wars IP and puts out some bobbleheads, right, that are a little bit like Marvel Mighties, and they are able to secure some first appearances. So everyone is like, oh, that is going to rip out a big piece of meat out of Veve. So Paul Barron here is actually probably doing a service to Veve, because now that he's comparing the Solana project to Veve, all of the Solana people will probably look also into Veve. So that is good. And on the other hand, yes, there are a couple of people from the Veve fam as well that are going to check out this, especially comic enthusiasts that are going to check out this app. And I think that's good. I think that's good for the market to have something where Veve is not alone, because the problem is, the biggest problem is if you are, let me just see here, if you are Veve and you are alone in the market. Because if you are alone in the market, that means that the market is not very big, is probably non-existent. But if there are projects in the beginning of a bull run that are coming in and challenging Veve, that is good, right? That is good for the entire market. Because even if they secure some comics that Veve doesn't have, we already know that DC comics are not on Veve. DC comics are being launched separately. It did not kill Veve. Yeah, there were big brands secured by Recur, Nickelodeon, and so on. Well, not around anymore, unfortunately. We have to say unfortunately. It would have been better if Recur was around. What about Quid? By the way, it's now 2, 3, 4 months that I didn't hear anything about Quid, right? Out of business probably. So who are the new challengers of Veve? I think it's fine, right? I mean, it's like Chainlink. Chainlink is the big fish in the Oracle game, but there's like there are others. There are challengers of Oracle. If you go into the segment of Oracle, you'll find 10 others. Yeah, Veve has 222k followers. Absolutely. And this reader that is going to put out Veve is going to be the death of Veve and whatnot, has 5.8k. And I think, okay, tap into the tap into the community, attract some more. It's fine. Pro Legendary says Solana is gonna crash when they mint their comic NFT. Yeah, this is another thing. I don't know how it works, but would it mean if the Solana blockchain has problems once again, will that mean that in that time you cannot sell your ownership once, right? Ain't says, if digital comics kick off, there's only one winner at present. However, anyone new bringing attention to the space will help us. Exactly. I 100% agree with you, Ain't. Dan says, I hope Veve catches on someday. So bored just having the same 2k-ish consistent users. That's bear market. We saw way more activity before. We now and then see someone new coming in on Twitter, but you will see that it catches on when there are also new content creators coming in and making videos about it. We saw a lot of YouTubers that made content about Veve going away, also because 2 of them now are of the bigger ones for Veve have been hired by Veve. So one thing was Veve in 3 by Corey, and the other one is My Collectibles, now hired by Veve. So probably I don't know if his YouTube channel is going to go, if it's offline now. But there were others that made videos about Veve, and they're also out of business, so to say, or they're probably going to reawaken then after a while. I remember when Dan was truly convinced we had 1 million users and staunchly defended we didn't have a bot problem. Yeah, I mean, you see it right now in the stats. So what we have is that we have about 65,000 real active users, and then we have a lot of dormant users within a big chunk of bots. So there are users that will come back. So we saw in the stream yesterday, we saw that we had people. I think we had 7 wallets that were comeback wallets, so that were inactive a long time. I will have to ask the people from Stacker what exactly the parameter is for who is coming back, but we will see. We will have to see. I would say my wild guess is that we are going to see bigger growth and adoption during the more to the end of the bull run, end of the year during the bull run, I would say. Dan says, I miss Tabs and Hodl fandom. He just kind of disappeared. He put out some good stuff. Yeah. So there were a lot of, obviously, there were a lot of times where there was way more to speculate on than we have now, right? What Veve could do and what they could pull off. And then we kind of had the phase where they just didn't bring anything new technology wise, and so on. And now I think with the bull run, we will get some parts of speculation. We will get it back, right? With which marketplaces they might integrate for interoperability with. Which exchanges we might get for Ecomi. By the way, I think it's time for another exchange already, right? If we get one per month or so, which is not a promise that they made, but if we want to keep the sequence up, then probably we'll have to have more exchanges there for Ecomi. So we will see. Yeah, so I'm not going to look at the new comics today because I am already over the time. This is one of the longest morning streams I ever had. Predator comics are live. I think there are Scotty Young ones in there, but I'm not going to look at them. So I release all of you to the comic minting. And guys, make sure to smash up the like button once more. Thank you for being here, everyone. Thank you for supporting me, all of the rare hodlers and everyone who has subscribed. Yeah, if you're not yet, make sure to subscribe. And wherever you are on the world, have a great morning, evening, day, night, or afternoon. And